Okay, so here's the second part of our conversions examples. I'm going to finish up with mass for standard American to metric. In part one, I did the three conversions of standard American to standard American, and we did that math. Those ones are right over here. And then we did the first two, length and volume of standard American to metric. That was where we were at. So right now is at mass. So mass, if I start with 27 ounces and I want to get to kilograms. So I take my 27 ounces and I need to find a conversion factor that takes us from ounces to metric. So we do have from ounces to grams. So I take my 1 ounce and I'm going to put it on the bottom so that my ounces will cancel out. And I have 1 ounce is 28.34 grams. So I put that 28.34 grams up here at the top. Well, now I want to cancel out my grams. So I'm going to get rid of my grams. I'm going to put grams at the bottom. And in 1 gram, that's not right. So when we go through, I want to go from grams to kilograms. So the way that I do this is I go through it. So I know that a kilogram is 1,000 grams. So if I have 1 kilogram here, I'm going to have 1,000 grams here. So then what we're going to do is we're going to multiply across and then divide by the bottom. And so as we go through to do this, get my calculator here. I'm going to take my 27 from the ounces, multiply it by the 28.34, multiply it by the 1 that's here with the kilograms, and then I'm going to divide. And I'm going to divide it by the 1 from the ounces, and divide it by the 1,000 from the grams. And I end up with 0.225 kilograms. Now, one of the things that you should have noticed is that all of these, really you need to have a calculator. None of these conversions are ones that you can simply do in your head without having some problems. That's not the case once we go over here to metric. So with metric, there's this wonderful thing you're able to do. So we're going to start out and we're going to look at length. So metric to metric. So we're going to go from 2,500 meters to kilometers. So I'm going to start with my 2,500. And even still using my ladder method here, I have 2,500 meters. And I need to just simply convert from meters to kilometers. Well, kilo means 1,000. So that means that I have 1,000 meters every time I get 1 kilometer. My meters cancel out, and then we just have to multiply across. But the wonderful thing with metric is everything is a base of 10. So it's either going to be a 1, or, like here with 1,000, 1 times 10 to the some kind of exponent. So what this means is that I can go here and I can look, and 2,500 times 1 is 2,500, and I can do my cancellations just like if I was simplifying a fraction, which means I can take my zeros and cancel them down and cancel them down. And so now I have 25 divided by 10. So if we take 25 and we divide it by 10, we should be able to do this just in our head and end up with 2.5. And so we have 2.5 kilometers out of 2,500 meters. All right, well, let's look at our volume one. We start off with our 355 milliliters. And we should know that milli means 1,000th. So we know that there are 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. So if I put my 1,000 down here for my milliliters, that way my milliliters will cross out. And that gives me 1 liter up here at the top. Again, no extra funky numbers, nothing I'm going to need a calculator for. So I can actually go through, and it'll be 355 divided by 1,000, or 0.355. We should be able to do these things in our head. If you're not able to do these in your head, you may want to practice some of your basic arithmetic here. Alright, our last one, mass, grams to kilograms. If I start out with 27 grams, and I want to go to kilograms, well, kilograms means 1,000. So that means there's 1,000 grams in 1 kilogram. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to put my 1,000 grams down here at the bottom. That way I can cross my grams out, and that'll equal 1 kilogram. Alright, so this one might be a little trickier for you, but it shouldn't be too bad. So 27 divided by 1,000. We know there's still going to be a 27 here. Okay, there's still going to be a 2 and a 7 because there's only ones and zeros there. There's no other values to change. So if 27 was divided by 10, we'd be at 2.7. If it was divided by 100, we'd be at 0.27. So now that it's divided by 1,000, we need to add one extra zero so that these 27 thousandths are in the right place. Because remember, the third place after the decimal point is the thousandth place. So it is going to be 0.027 kilograms. And what you will notice is as I did the metric to metric, these were much, much easier. If you are finding it hard to kind of do some of this in your head, one of the other ways you can do this, especially if it's a large jump, is, for example, if I'm going from centimeters to kilometers, I might want to go from centimeters to meters, and then from meters to kilometers, just to make sure that I counted up the number of zeros correctly. But that would be the only other suggestion I have. So, as we went through all of these conversions, we did get through we did go through standard American to standard American here. This, a lot of conversions, we had to use the ladder method. We always have a lot of kind of funky numbers here, not ones that you can do immediately in your head. Standard American to metric, same thing, except for this time also we end up with some decimals here because, well, standard American often has funky numbers. It doesn't go in evenly, so we end up with some decimals here. Whereas with metric to metric, really all we did was we moved the decimal point. If you look, the actual values of our place values here didn't really change. I still have a 2 and a 5. I still have a 3, a 5, and a 5. I still have a 2 and a 7. It's where the decimal point is, which means when you're converting these things, it makes life much, much easier, especially if you remember your metric prefixes. All right, hopefully that helps, and you will be able to finish up your metric conversion practice. Most of it is metric to metric. There was some standard American to metric, and that is just so that you get some practice. You don't always get all your measurements in metric, so we do sometimes have to go back and do these standard American to metric conversions. This also, please, 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 I know that you probably have other ways that you've learned how to do conversions. Please do it by the ladder method here, going through like this. The more practice you get with this, the better this will be, because you are going to be using this in chemistry. You are going to be using this in physics. You are going to be using this in AP Biology, AP Environmental. This is the standard way we do conversions in science because it allows us to do a lot more complicated conversions in a much, much simpler way. So even though, for example, going ounces to pounds here, it was only a one-step ladder, and so it was fairly simple and you could have done it a different way. please set them up in the ladder method so that you get practice doing so on the simple problems, so that when we get to the complicated problems, this becomes much, much easier to keep track of where all of your units are and what units are left. Because especially when you get into physics and chemistry, you really do need to know what units are left so that you properly label. Okay, thank you very much.